Hi guys, it's Hannah from Trekitt and I'm here in the beautiful Hoff Woods just outside of Hereford today to talk to you about how to wash and care for your boots. Now before I go into that in any great detail, we're just going to take a really quick look at the construction of your boots. So the layer that sits closest to your skin is just a really comfortable layer of little fabric, but then behind that you've got your waterproof membrane, so whether that's Gore-Tex or the own brand membrane. You then have a big chunk of padding and then your outer material. So on these, that's leather. So all of that is what we're trying to protect when we're washing and caring for our boots. It's just a really quick and easy process, and it's just going to help prolong the life of your boots. So one of the main questions that we get asked in the shop is how often should I be washing and caring for my boots? Now that's kind of a how long is a piece of string kind of question. It totally depends on how often you're taking them out and what kind of weather and terrain you're taking them out on, and how you store them. So generally we recommend that you store them in a cool, dry place, and that you store them relatively clean. So that doesn't mean that you have to properly wash them every single time you get back from a walk, but just rinse them off underneath the hose outside and don't force dry them. Mud in the UK especially can be really acidic, so we don't want to be storing them like coated in mud for days at a time. So a general gauge for when your boots will need a wash and a wax is when the water is no longer beading off the outer fabric and when it's kind of setting into it instead. That doesn't mean, especially if you've got a good waterproof membrane, that doesn't mean that the water is going to get into your boots, but it does make the boots heavier and it does affect the breathability. Plus, that little extra barrier of wax just alleviates the pressure from the waterproof membrane, and it just means that it's going to last you much longer. Okay, so the actual cleaning of the outside of the boots. So we stock a couple of different brands that will do the same thing. So Grangers do a very handy little footwear care kit, so it all comes in one. So that, the cleaner just comes in a little spray bottle, and then they have an extra tough brush with really, really tough bristles just to help you get all of that excess mud out. And then Nikwax just comes in this little bottle with a sponge applicator at the top. And then if you just wanted a bit more oomph and to really get into the really muddy bits, then just use an old brush or an old toothbrush, and that will just help get all the excess mud out. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the Nikwax footwear cleaning gel, and that's purely because I already had one open. So before we get started, it's a really good tip to remove the laces of your boot. Tip, tip, tip. And that is just so we can push the tongue out and we can really get into all the crevices and get all of that excess mud out. So after you've taken the laces out, the next step is to just give them a quick rinse to remove any excess mud and to just dampen up the surface of the boot. Dip, dip, dip. It would obviously be much easier to do that under a tap before you start. Right. Then, with this bottle, I'm going to give it a good shake. I'm going to press the sponge applicator onto the boot to break the seal. So just in small circular motions, we're going to generously apply the footwear cleaning gel, really work it in with that sponge, paying particular attention to the seams and the little crevices like along where the rand meets the leather, just to get any excess mud out. Really work it into the tongue and along the buckles as well. Once you've applied that with the sponge applicator, then I do just like to give them a once over with the tougher bristle brush just to get all the excess mud out, especially underneath the boot. So as you can see, that bristle brush has taken off most of that footwear cleaning gel, but it is just worth rinsing them underneath the tap just to make sure that you've taken off everything, especially around the eyelets. So now I'm going to take you through how to wash the inside of your boot. And people quite often give me a little weird look whenever I mention this, but it's equally as important as washing the outside. It obviously won't need doing as often, But if you're a particularly sweaty person, or if you're wearing the wrong pair of socks, then they will need doing more often than usual. So sweat vapor escapes through the waterproof membrane in a boot. So that escapes through these tiny, tiny little holes in the membrane. Now these little holes allows bigger than water vapor, so they allow sweat vapor to escape, but they are much, much smaller than a water droplet. So water doesn't come in from the outside through your boots. But these little pores can get clogged up with sweat and oils and salt from your sweat. So it's really, really important to just give those a quick rinse through too. We do lose up to half a pint of sweat through our feet. It's pretty gross, but it does mean that every now and then they do just need a rinse. So to start, pop out the insoles. And we can wash these separately, they're really easy. Pop that to the side. Then we're going to pop about an inch, just under, of warm water inside. I'm going to try not to get this everywhere. Okay, lovely. That went very well, if I do say so myself. Okay, then we're going to get our footwear cleaning gel again, and just a little cloth. You can use a brush inside here, but you'd have to be really, really gentle. Obviously, we just don't want to damage that membrane that's sat quite close to the foot. So wet this little cloth, and then we're just going to squeeze some of that footwear cleaning gel into the cloth, and then kind of just going to go to town. Okay, then we're just going to leave those to air dry. You can fill them with newspaper to allow that air drying to speed up a little bit, but don't force dry them. So no radiators and no fires. We can repeat the process with the insole as well. So just, yeah, get them damp, get some footwear cleaning gel on that, and like work it into the insole too. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through the conditioning and recoating of your boots. I'm just going to pop this dirty one out of the way for now. Lovely. So I'm going to be using the Mindel Sport Wax on my Mindel boot. We would always recommend using the own brand product if they do one, because they've taken the time to determine what works best on their types of fabric. So depending on what material your boots are made out of will determine the care products you put on after you've washed them. So leather care products will nourish and feed that leather and keep them supple, and fabric care products will restore the water repellency to fabric boots. You do also get something like this from Nikwax, which is a fabric and leather proof that'll do a bit of both. So do always double check the instructions on each individual care product. Some require your boots to be dry before you add it on, and some require them to be wet. Most actually recommend your boots to be a bit damp. So like I said earlier, I'm going to be using Mindel Sport Wax. Now this is a conditioner for the leather, and it's also a water repellent coating. So I'm going to use this little microfiber cloth. I'm going to scoop a small bit. Already quite soft. It's not solid and oily like dubbin. So I'm just going to work it in small circular motions. Now a little goes a long way with this sport wax, so you don't need lots and lots and lots when you're applying it to the boot. We're also going to pay particular attention to the seams. Might be a good idea just to get a little bit on your finger and really, really, really work it into the seams. So this isn't dubbin, so I'm not going to like buff my boot afterwards. I really want that conditioner to really get into the leather and keep it supple. It's a really good idea to do this the night before you go out, so it's got a full like 12 hours to soak into the leather. So it's just good to note, guys, that whilst these products are very, very good and, you know, add that good barrier of water repellency to your boots, they do not make a pair of footwear waterproof. So if you suspect that your boots are leaking, then we do recommend giving this little video a watch. So there you have it, guys. That's how to wash and care for your boots. It's a really quick and simple process that will just help to add years to the life of your footwear. If you love the content that we're putting out, then please hit subscribe. And if I haven't answered all of your questions, then do pop them in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye. Da, 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 da.